What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Clear to Close. My name is Jonathan Meek, and today we're talking about the 5 steps to a perfect close. So stick around with me, and I'm going to tell you what the word close really means. Hello everyone, Jonathan Meek here with Clear to Close, bringing you the best guidance for a fast, efficient, and error-free closing. On this channel, we provide videos designed to educate the buyer, the seller, the realtor, and any other settlement professionals on the best tips and strategies for a successful real estate or business closing. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Alright everyone, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it today. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so I want to make sure you know exactly where I'm going, and here's the roadmap. We're going to talk about the 5 steps to a perfect closing, and they are going to be run through the acronym CLOSE, or close. I'm going to start with the letter C, and the C stands for contract phase. The contracting phase is in many ways the most important phase of the whole entire real estate process, because here is where we are going to set down on paper all of the rules and regulations for how everything needs to play out. So in your particular state, there may be a specific document that they use. In North Carolina, it's called the offer to purchase and contract. There may be no specific document in your state to use, and you may just need to come up with your own sales contract. I've also seen people sell and buy properties on a napkin, so there's no real formalized process specifically to do this. A contract for sale is a contract for sale, but this contracting phase is where you're going to be able to put in all of the details of what's about to happen. So in specifics, you need to get that contract price written down in the contract, and then you need to flesh out the rest of the terms. You need to look into whether there's going to be any contingencies, meaning does someone need to buy or sell a home before we can move on with this transaction? Are there going to be any issues that we need to talk about ahead of time, meaning is there going to be any due diligence time period given to the buyer or to look into the property and those types of things? And that's really what comes up next. Are there going to be any amounts paid for earnest money or due diligence up front? Who are you going to select as the closing or settlement agent? What is going to be the closing date? All of those types of things are usually and typically found within the contract. The second step is going to be L for look into the property. And what this really means is there's a period of time pretty much in any real estate transaction where the buyer is given the opportunity to look into the property and find out whether it's truthfully the property that they want to buy. This is usually opened up by a certain due diligence payment that's made to the seller. Just to be gracious enough to open their door and let you into the property may not be enough. You may have to pay your way in to get the seller to go ahead and allow you to have your inspectors come in, have you do certain checks on the property to make sure that everything is in line. For instance, having an inspection, having a home inspection, having a pest inspection, having a surveyor out to the property. All of those types of things are typically done during this look into the property phase or the due diligence phase. This step in the closing process cannot be overlooked, because there are many times when a person sets up a due diligence time period and finds out that there's something wrong with the property that can't be fixed in time for them to go to contract, so they end up abandoning the contract or leaving it there, leaving that due diligence money behind. Up until this point, you probably have the opportunity when you're looking into the property to go ahead and make those inquiries, to go ahead and find out whether there's anything wrong with the property. Once you get to the next one where you're ordering documents, it may be more costly for you to get out of the contract, meaning you may have to forego earnest money or things like that, or it may be impossible depending on the way you've written the contract. The third phase in the closing process is the O, and it is order the documents phase. So what this means is you're going to start bringing in the professionals, and to a certain degree there's going to be some overlap between the first part of the process, looking into the property, and the ordering the documents phase, because sometimes the lender and the attorney like to get a jump on getting those documents ordered. So ordering the documents for me really stands for asking your attorney to go ahead and order a title search. You want to get your attorney ordering documents, ordering any additional surveying that needs to be done, ordering any judgments and copies of divorces and those types of things during that time. And really, you're placing your order at this time for the completion of the closing package, the documents that you're going to be signing in the signing phase, which comes next. In the order the documents phase, there's also a part where you're going to be communicating with your lender about all of the issues that they may have with the application, gotten any additional documents from you as a buyer that they need to make sure that you're going to get a closing package and actually be able to get to the closing table. This is where all of the real transactional work starts to happen. This is where we start formulating a document package that will then be the documents that you sign at closing to then transfer to the final phase. The fourth step in the perfect close is the S CLOS, and S stands for signing. So what we're going to do at the signing is do exactly that. This is the time where the buyer and the seller and their realtors get around the table with the settlement agent and look at the documents that have been prepared. So at this point, we've got all of the due diligence complete. We've looked into the property. We have all of the documents ordered and they are there at the table, and we have the people sitting around the table that need to sign the documents in order to transfer the property, in order to encumber the property with the new mortgage, in order to get the information ready and prepared to transfer the property from one person to the other, and make sure that the debts from one are paid off so that the new debt can be put on the property. So this is a very, very, very important and crucial phase, and this one has to happen on a single day inside of the transaction. So way back at the contracting phase, when you put on there that you want to close on a specific date and you're getting close to that date and you're right at that date and it looks like it's going to go past you, any shift of that date can possibly cause a great deal of difficulty for the members in the transaction. The seller could consider it a breach if the buyer goes past that date. If the buyer can't get to close fast enough, it may be an issue with the lender. So the documents that are there and prepared and ready for signing need to be there on that one single day. And all of these things come together on one single day to be completed. In the signing phase of this, we're going to make sure that all parties get to the table, that all signatures are retrieved on any of the documents that need to be had, that the money is brought to the table that needs to be brought, and that everything is signed and sealed and ready to go so that we can give effect to the transfer of the property from seller to buyer. The fifth and final step to the perfect closing process is ECLOS, and that stands for enter onto the property. So once we've gotten all the documents signed that we need to transfer, the settlement agent is going to do the final checks on the property to make sure there's been no liens placed on the seller. They're going to make sure that there have been no additional judgments that need to be paid off or any other additional issues that might cause us not to be able to close. We're going to make those final checks, and then we're going to record the deed, record the mortgage if there is one. We're going to make sure that that property transfers, and then the very next step is for the buyer to be able to enter onto the property. So as soon as we're recorded, that buyer is going to be able to enter into the property, get the keys, start moving in. And this is one of the best parts of this entire process. At this point, you can look back over that whole close and know that you've gotten to it and it's complete. For the seller, this is a little bit different because you've reached the E, which we're calling enter onto the property, but they're actually exiting the property. So you can say it's either exiting the property or ending the transaction if you're the seller, whichever one you choose. I'm going to give you a little bit of a choice on this one. But as far as exiting the property or ending the transaction, what's going to happen at this point is crucial for the seller also, because they're going to be having their mortgage paid off, if there is one that exists on the property, and they're going to be receiving the proceeds from the transaction. So what are the 5 steps to a perfect close? We're going to go through the acronym CLOSE, and that is C stands for contracting phase, L stands for look into the property, O stands for order the documents, S stands for sign those documents, and E stands for enter the property or exit the property. I really appreciate you sticking by me today to learn about the 5 steps to a perfect close. We are going to be doing additional videos on each one of these steps to flush them out a little bit further for you, but I can tell you, if you are in a real estate transaction and you have this acronym in your head, this is going to take you from contract to the final entry onto the property as soon as it possibly can. Make sure that you know these steps, make sure that you're holding your realtor and your settlement agents and your lender to these steps, because if you know as a buyer or seller what the phases are, you're going to know exactly where you're standing and exactly what needs to be happening in each one of those phases. And again, we're going to be doing a more in-depth video on each one of these steps along the way. So please tune in for those. Look for the links for them down below. If they're not there, they haven't been made yet, and I'll be doing them in the next couple of weeks here. If you're liking the content that you're hearing, please hit that like button. If you are in a transaction or about to be in a transaction where you're buying or selling a home, I strongly suggest that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notifications button, because we're going to be putting out a lot more content very soon on each one of these topics and flushing it out for you. If you have any questions about what we've covered today, please put a comment in the comments below. We'd like to respond back to you and start a conversation about this. I really appreciate you hanging in with me for these 5 steps to a perfect close. I look forward to seeing you again on Clear to Close.